Tell me what you see in me. Gotta be something different.
What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ariel RayVon. If you're returning, what's good, rave babes? So today we are going to be talking about, as you can see from the title, things I wish I knew before I went to nursing school. So some of these things are things that I already knew prior to going nursing school because my mom also went to LPN and RN school. But because I am me and she is my mom, I did not listen to her and I had to go through some of these things by myself. So I am just here to tell you that a lot of the things that you hear, you should take it and run with it because it's likely true. Nursing school is one of those professions where it's not a competition. When we're all in school, we're all wanting to win, we're all wanting to graduate. You are a team. So remember that before you go in, before you decide, oh, I'm not really going to pay attention to my classmates, or thinking that someone has something against you. You're a team. You're all trying to get to that finish line. You're all trying to get your nursing pin. You're all trying to get that diploma or that license. Remember that you're a team. So onto the actual video. There's 3 sections that I have split this into, one of them being work-life balance, the second one being school materials, and the third one being routes to becoming a nurse. If you are in high school, routes to becoming a nurse is definitely something you want to stick around to hear because there's some things that I wish that my high school would have told me prior to waiting so long to go to nursing school. But we're going to go ahead and start with the first section, which is work-life balance. So you will be told several times that there is no life outside of nursing school while you're in nursing school. It's absolutely not true. There's people in nursing school who are all different ages. You have people who are freshly out of high school. You also have people who are, transitioning from being in a different type of profession to being a nurse who's in their mid-20s, mid-30s. You may have people in their 40s and 50s. So everyone has different things going on in their life, whether they are a full-time employee, a full-time parent, part-time employee. These are things that you will come across. If you are that person who absolutely feels that you have to work, you absolutely need your job, you can't lose it, you have bills to pay, do not let the stress of whether or not you will be able to work overwhelm you, because there are plenty of people in your shoes and you absolutely can continue to work while you're in school. If your job is not allowing you to take those days off, I will say that's probably where compromising comes in. You may have to get a different job. You may have to switch your hours, but there are plenty of people in nursing school that work full-time jobs or part-time jobs or even develop side hustles to be able to get through nursing school. So if you're one of those people worrying about that, know that there's a million other people just like you who are also working and figuring out nursing school. Do not let nursing school stress you to the point of you feeling that you cannot take a break and hang out with your friends. You have to find those work-life balances and school life balances so that you don't get burnt out and automatically want to quit nursing school because you are being driven crazy. You have to take a break and reset at some point. Try to find something during the week, whether it's going to get some coffee, just going to hang out at a friend's house. I used to take my homework with me to my friend's house, so while they're watching TV, I could at least be doing some type of studying. Or even though it seems that that's not what you would do, when you're really into it, you will definitely make sure that you spend that time studying because you're paying for this, and it also, you have end goals, like you're gonna do what you have to do. So make that time for your friends and family. Take that trip on the weekend. Don't be afraid to tell your friends, I can put my homework down for a day or a night and I can come hang out. But know when to do it. Don't skip your homework if you know it's due at midnight to go hang out till 11 o'clock. Peer pressure does not always make you have better grades. Remember that, okay? Remember that, okay? So, on to the next thing. Clinicals seem like you're working full time. Be flexible. When I was in nursing school, it was during the pandemic, and we had to be very flexible, meaning that there was a point in time where the hospitals decided that either we be vaccinated, or we would not be able to come to their site and do our clinical hours, which is a problem because you had to have clinical hours to graduate. Or B, when they decided that they're going to shut the hospital down to outside people other than staff, we had to get all of our clinical dates done before that deadline, or we wouldn't have been able to make our hours, which means we were going to clinicals 3 to 4 times a week, unpaid, 12-hour shifts. Yeah, that requires being flexible. That's one of those moments where you might have to take PTO from your job. You might have to change your job, but it's definitely things like that that can happen. So being flexible means to understand that sometimes, especially because we're still dealing with COVID, monkeypox, all those different types of things, that the hospital can change their minds at any moment, and you need to be flexible. Clinical hours can be anywhere between 2 days a week to 4 days a week, sometimes maybe even 5, depending on your program. So being flexible is a must. Your schedule can change at any moment. Also, it can also feel like a job, because while you're at clinicals, if you don't have the opportunity to pick up a hospital job or a nursing job, as a nurse extern anywhere, you want to be on your best behavior and just look your best at all times and take clinicals very seriously, because it's pretty much a job interview. That person that you're working with at your clinical site can also be the person to recommend you to the charge nurse or to the nurse manager that you should probably be hired. So if working at a certain specialty on a certain floor at a certain hospital is your goal and you can't get in to get that job, you should definitely be trying to basically make it seem as if you're on as you're interviewing for that job while you're at clinicals. Flexibility. Your classmates are not your competition. Like I said earlier, your goal is for everyone that you start with is to be the same people you finish with. Your cohort is your family. Make friends. Don't be afraid to ask your friends if they understand something, or not your friends, but don't be afraid to ask your fellow students if they understand something that you don't understand. Don't be afraid to form groups. Don't be afraid to form group chats. Don't be afraid to talk to the other people in your class. It is not a competition. It is not a race. This is something that some cohorts just don't get, and it really sucks, because once you become a nurse, you already have to deal with the older nurses weeding the newer nurses out. You have to stand strong together. You will not get any prize from seeing your fellow cohort, seeing people you go to school with fail. You will get nothing from that. Don't do that. Make friends with them, hang out with them outside of school, give each other tips and tricks, and it'll make school so much easier. So on to school materials. If you have that same dingy, cheap book bag from high school, or just sitting in your closet, or get rid of it. It is not going to do you any good, because books, computers, all of that is heavy as hell, and you don't want that on your back or your shoulders. You already have a whole career ahead of you where you'll be doing heavy lifting and pushing and pulling. You don't want to wear your back out in nursing school before you even start working. Get rid of that book bag and invest in a good one. You want something that has good padding on the shoulders, good, it's nice and strong, it has durability, because your books ain't no hoe. They are not light. You also want something that is able to have padding in it for your laptops or your iPads, because many schools now require you to have some type of electronic, because a lot of nursing schoolwork is online. You want a good book bag or satchel or something that's going to carry your things and keep them from breaking or getting damaged. Get rid of that old book bag. Invest in a new one. You do not need an expensive iPad or a tablet or MacBook. Don't feel like you have to go to Best Buy and get the most expensive anything. I went through nursing school with a Chromebook, an old one at that, from like 2013, 2014. You don't need it. You really don't. I didn't get this iPad until way after nursing school. You don't need it. I will say you will need some type of computer, some type of laptop or a tablet, but you don't need to go out and get the latest MacBook if you don't have it already. You don't. Save your money. Most nursing schools require you to have the PDF versions of the books, but sometimes they don't require you to have the physical books. Get the physical books. Do not just get the PDFs, because sometimes you need to have that in-person book so that you can highlight, you can sticky note, you can see it, you can share it. Sometimes you need to have that on you, because at any point, if something happens to your laptop or something happens to your tablet, you don't have access to it. You need to have both. Don't be that person that trying to save an extra dollar. Get both. It's definitely worth it in the end. And sometimes you may get lucky and have an open book test, but because of the way that nursing school tests are, you can't leave your screen once you're on it, or it'll log you out and say you're cheating. So you will need an in-person physical copy of your books. They're heavy as hell, yes, there's a lot of them, yes, but it's so much more worth it than just having the PDF versions. YouTube is your friend. Make YouTube another one of your books. Do not be afraid to look up some of other YouTube lecturers. They're free. They can probably break things down in ways that your lecturer, your teacher cannot. And there's so many resources out there on nursing material. Don't be afraid to go watch a video. A lot of nursing school is teaching yourself. So let someone else teach you something in a different way than you're already learning it. Sometimes the book and your teacher just isn't enough. There's always somebody, somewhere, and somebody out there that can break it down even more for you. And sometimes they even have practice questions or scenarios in their links in the description boxes. You don't need to invest in outside nursing lecturers. Meaning, there's sometimes when I just said that, they have those free, quizzes. They also sometimes have subscriptions that you can have unlimited lectures, unlimited this, or even sometimes people go ahead and buy those expensive packages for your NCLEX testing. You really don't need it. NCLEX changes all the time. And on top of that, you have already so many resources with your nursing books. They usually come with practice questions. If you have ATI is an amazing resource with multiple thousands of questions, and you really don't need to outsource anywhere else to pay for another subscription. Save your money. You know how before you go to school in like high school or middle school, how you go and get all of your supplies and you have 1,000,001 color coordinated, journals? You don't need that for nursing school. Work smarter, not harder. Invest in a printer. When you have a printer, you can print out notes and then just go back through and reread the notes and highlight what's most important. Don't try to write out all of your lectures. Your wrist is gonna hurt. You're not gonna go back and look through those notes. Type it out or print it out. Don't invest in 1,000,001 loose leaf papers and freaking journals. I promise you, it is a waste. Our third section is routes to become a nurse. So for our high school students, or even just those who are still trying to figure out what you want to do years after high school, you do not have to go to a university to become a nurse. Community colleges are not for losers. I know it seems like, oh, they're going to a community college because they didn't get into a university, or they just don't know what they're doing with their life, or they don't have the money to go to a university. That's not always the case. You can get your associates in nursing and be an RN just like a person who has a bachelor's in nursing and has a BSN. You do the exact same things. The only thing that's different is really the pay. LPNs also can go to community college and get your LPN license. The difference is you can't have, critical patients. You also don't get the same pay. There's some things that RNs can do that LPNs cannot do. So if you're looking for a quick route to become a nurse, money's tight, or just for any reason that you don't want to go through all of the years of getting your bachelor's, you can get an LPN or an ASN. I personally would suggest ASN, but that's because I have an ASN and I love it. Another thing about going to school, become a nurse, don't be surprised when you have to take classes that make absolutely no sense. Just like any degree, you have to take those extra classes that really just feels like they're just taking money from you in college. I had to take music history. I don't remember anything I learned, and I don't understand why I had to take it. But just like any other degree, you have to have those basic liberal arts type classes. So English, math, science, and an extracurricular, and mine just happened to be music history. It sucks, but it is necessary. So don't be shocked when that happens. When you get to the point where you're about to apply for nursing school, apply for multiple different programs. Apply for LPN, apply for ASN, apply at different colleges. I got accepted into three different programs at 2 different schools. And then I did my pros and cons and I chose which one. Don't just put all of your eggs in one basket. You should have, just like anytime you're applying for college, have your top 3 and always have a backup plan as well. Nursing school is very competitive. You may not be chosen the very first time, but you most likely get chosen the second if you don't get chosen the first. And sometimes even when you apply and you may not even have to wait a whole nother semester or a whole nother anything. One of the programs I got accepted into, I didn't get accepted the very first time, but then like a week or 2 later, I got accepted into that program that they denied me for. So people drop out of programs all the time as soon as they get accepted into one. Don't beat yourself up if it comes down to you just not getting it that round, because it's competitive. There's a lot of people applying to be in that program. Sometimes they've already made their, decision before they even got to your name. So don't think that it's because you don't deserve to be there or that you don't have what it takes. Sometimes they just already have it picked out before they even get to your name. And we just keep rolling with it. That's why you should always have multiple schools and multiple programs that you apply for. Last but not least, I want to tell you guys, don't feel confined. If you're doing clinicals and you're realizing that the hospital setting is just not for you, or you don't like med surg, you want to go into a more specialty, don't let anyone tell you that it's harder to become something or harder to get into some area, because that's not necessarily true. After you get your degree, don't be afraid to leave the area. I moved 2 hours away from where I went to school. They tell me that L&D is very hard to get into because usually once nurses become, L&D nurses, they don't leave. I left the area to become a labor and delivery nurse. Now, I did know that I wanted to use my degree for cosmetics and aesthetics. So L&D just wasn't my thing. However, there's so many revenues and avenues you can take with nursing. Don't feel confined to going to a hospital. You'll have so many nurses tell you, oh, for your first 2 years, you need to work med surg so you can have all of your skills. You don't want to lose them. If you know that that's not where you're going to want to be, don't do it. Why put yourself through the stress of being in that area just for you to not work your best? Because it's not where you want to be. No one wants a nurse taking care of them that doesn't want to be there. It's going to show in your work ethic. As much as you say that it won't, it will. And it's not fair to the people who you're taking care of. So make sure that you don't, if you feel like where you're at is not where you want to be, don't be afraid to look for another job. There's so many different places that a nurse can work and so many things that a nurse can do. Did you even know that nurses do laser hair removal? I didn't, and I'm doing it, and I absolutely love it. I thought that I would be doing Botox or BBLs. Like, who would have known? So don't feel confined to whatever box that they try to put you in. You can do anything with a nursing degree. There's also MSN, there's also NPs, PAs, like nurse anesthesiologists. Like, there's so many things that you can do. Don't feel confined. So that's going to wrap up just a couple things that I wish that I would have known prior to going to nursing school. And I hope that I was helpful. If you have any questions, you can leave them down below. I will answer them all to the best of my knowledge. And I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye.